Wait until the spring before you make a real estate purchase. That's my man Bert Sperling from bestplaces.net. I was on a webinar with him, a live stream he did on YouTube yesterday. I'm a premium subscriber to bestplaces.net. I think it's like $100 a year or something like that. And I love the website. It's good. It's not great. It's good though. The cost of living stuff is fantastic. I wish they get a little bit more detail about high-speed internet and Medicare gap or Medicare supplement / Medicare gap policies. They just have a basic, cost of healthcare in certain places. But it's a good site, certainly for $100 a month, $100 a year. Anyway, he was saying he thinks, and he's from Portland. He's coming at us from Portland. And I was on the live stream, the chat and all that, and we had a good time. But anyway, he was saying he thinks we have an the price has gone too high. And he says he thinks it's just because we've had this pent-up demand. You remember, real estate purchases primarily is a springtime where most people are getting on the move. And we locked everybody down, insanely, of course, in the springtime. So we had a deliberate limit on that real estate purchase because of the lockdown. And so what Bert was saying was, now that we have this huge demand, we basically we took the top off the demand, but we haven't increased the supply. In fact, the supply is still low because I'm sure a lot of people are saying, or at least initially are saying, I don't know if I want people going through my house. I don't know this. I don't know that. Anyway, so he said the supply hasn't even come close to keeping up with the demand. The demand has exploded through the roof because of it's been pent up. It's been locked down, literally locked down. And then part two, people are wanting to get out of the urban areas with the crime is and all that, and he says, so there's a huge demand, but he doesn't think it's sustainable. He thinks again, he's not saying it's a bubble, but he thinks it'll come back down to earth in the spring. I think he's right. What I love about what Bert said on this, about crime, he goes, man, stop. I'm going to paraphrase him, but he's like, people put so much emphasis on crime, and it's just not the big deal that people make of it. Now, he did have a couple things I thought, and he's in Portland. I don't know if he's single or not, but he's a lib, I could tell. He's saying there's no proof that the broken window theory of the Rudy Giuliani time and I forgot his name. James, there's a big social scientist, James something, he's since passed, James Q. Wilson. He says there's no evidence that the broken window theory helps to break crime. It certainly does. I mean, the broken window theory, getting rid of recidivism, you got career criminals, throw them in jail and don't want to come back out. That absolutely stops crime, for sure. No other way around it. Because you have a group of people who commit most of the crimes. You get those group of people off the streets, and you're going to see crimes dropping. But he said there's no evidence that he's just dead wrong. But he did say, and he did say too, that the facts are, we didn't have as many young men over the last 20 years as we did the previous 20 years. And so because of that, we have less crime. And now we're going to get more young men as the second baby boomer. Yeah, I say baby boom, but the generations after me are certainly more children than my generation. So anytime you have more young men, you have more crime. That's just all there is to it. But what he said was crime in of itself, yes, there is crime, but it's not as rampant as people make it seem. I mean, I tell you, I could not agree with this more. If you stay out of certain areas, you just don't have to worry about crime. It's just that simple, man. And even if you live in those cities, Portland, Oregon, or wherever, Atlanta, you just don't have to worry about crime. I mean, you always need to be looking around situational awareness, sure. But I need to have situational awareness here in my affluent suburb. And you should always have situational awareness. But crime isn't something that you're like, oh my goodness, they're all out to get me. It's just not like that. And all these people say America, from foreign countries, you guys are criminals, so much crime. It's just not true. I mean, you hear about, Japanese guys getting jumped by some black kids in New York City. I just read about that last night. And it's sad, man. But New York has 7 million people. It's sad. Doesn't mean that there's a black guy around the corner getting ready to take you out. Just as I say to other people, just because, Trump got 63 million votes doesn't mean there's a freaking Nazi around the corner getting ready to take you out. It's stupid. There's 330 million people in this country. Sadly, the people most affected by the criminals are the ones who would be hurting the most if the left-wing, rich, white liberals got their way with defunding the police. It's amazing to me how rich white liberals in hoity-toity towns can advocate defunding the police because it won't affect them at all. But the poor people, and a lot of times the poor black, they're the ones going to get affected the most because they're the ones who bear the brunt of the crime, for sure. Defund the police. Black Lives Matter, defund the police, those two things are inconsistent. Mutually exclusive, if you will. But I did like he's saying that. So basically, this is what I said the other when I was talking about Kyle Rittenhouse and everyone got upset. I said, look, you stay off the roads after midnight. Only people on the roads after midnight are drunks and cops. And then people say, oh, so if I'm going to work, I must be a criminal, drunks, and cops. That's what I said. So if I'm going to work at 2 a.m. in the morning, I must be a criminal drunk or a drunk because I'm not a cop? No. There are people who do go to work at 2 a.m. and leave. I used to manage a bar. I have to leave work at 3 a.m. after we cleaned up. I was not a drunk, I was not a criminal, and I was not a cop. It's called being facetious. There is an analogy to be made there that some people can get. So if you stay away from the roads at 2 a.m. in the morning, most likely you're going to be safe on the roads. Not all the time, but most likely. There's really bad things can happen to you at 2 a.m. on the highways. However, same thing with crime. You stay away from high crime areas in your city, most likely you will not be a victim of crime. That doesn't mean you won't be. It just means most likely. So don't live your life as if, oh my goodness, they're out to get me. It's nuts. I appreciate that a lot, what he said about that crime thing. So I think a lot of people say, oh, there's crime in this town. That must be as bad. And you're like, well, if you don't go to those neighborhoods, you're going to be fine. Well, if the neighborhoods come to us, well, if the neighborhoods come to you, I suggest you get firearms and learn how to use them to protect yourself. Again, criminals, though, as I've said a million times on Sunday, they're always looking for the low-hanging fruit, man. So a heavily armed, with dogs, neighborhood, a criminal doesn't want to risk his life to steal your friggin' TV in that regard. He's not going to home invade you. I mean, he could, but no criminal is going to home invade you if there's a chance that they can get blown away. If they're on meth and stuff, they might not recognize what could happen to them. I got a feeling, though, if they're on meth or freaking cocaine, they're not finding your neighborhood anyway, because they're probably shooting up someplace that's not a great area to begin with. They're not going to find your section of your community. Again, could it happen? Sure. Does it happen on occasion? Absolutely. We have a country of 330 million people. Not likely to happen. So don't worry so much about the criminals are out to get me. I always said worry about the government's out to get you with taxes, with regulations, mandates of solar panels, mandates on various things. That's what you should worry about. I'll see you.